John Knoll had a need for a product, and Thomas Knoll had the ability to create that product. You put the two gasoline and fire, an explosion happens.
Interpreting reality has always been part of the image maker's craft. As photography became common, this new tool could assist the criminologist, the scientist, and journalist. It also gave the artist a new power, and the trickster an even greater one. But nothing prepared us for the game changer around the corner. What would happen if it could be digitized and altered at the pixel level?
If we have a tool that allows us to take a film image and turn that into numbers, into a digital image, and then you have a tool for manipulating those numbers in a way to put that back out onto film, the possibilities were completely unlimited. I'd just gotten a Macintosh 2 computer. But at the time, displaying a color picture on a Macintosh was actually kind of a lot of work.
I was working on a PhD at the University of Michigan in computer vision. And computer vision is the process of taking an image and producing information as an output.
He had written a whole bunch of image processing tools that were the front end to a lot of his thesis work.
Simultaneously, my brother had decided that computer graphics was the future of his profession.
At one point I was on the phone with him, kind of whining a bit about these systems to display color image. And Tom said, well, here's what you ought to do.
So I suggested that he use some of my utility routines. So I gave him all my tools at the time.
And of course, I started asking for more features.
So I combined them all into a single application
that he called Display.
And he decided that, hey, I think we could sell this thing.
And I distinctly remember Tom saying, oh, you're crazy. I was full of naive optimism, and I said, if you will write it, I will figure out how to make money with this.
I gave him the opportunity, if he wanted to go show it around to some software publishers.
So the first meeting I had at Adobe, I did a quick demo, and the folks there were excited and impressed enough. They said, will you come back and do the same demo for John Warnock next week? He's actually a pioneer in the computer graphics field. Finally, after about 6 months, we signed the deal, and it became Adobe's product.
I joined a team of Thomas Knoll, John Knoll, Steve Gutman, the first product manager, and myself. I was the first evangelist. And we hit that threshold point where it's finally time to switch, because I can now achieve just as much resolution as a 35mm piece of film, and then boom, it just took off from there.
I had an ad agency in New York, and my partner said we had to computerize. Now I told him, fine, get your computer, but don't expect me to be sitting there entering data. But he said, there's a new computer coming out that I think you could do your layouts on. So I went down to the computer store and I saw this little Mac, and I drew a box. And then by accident, I found myself in what was called fat bits. I found myself at the pixel level, and that's what clicked. All of my traditional tools were now in a digital realm.
There was a dawning on me that this was what photography was rapidly becoming. It was like a godsend of control being laid into my hands.
I found 3D abstract art. Back in the day, it was like early 2000s, and it was just like mesmerizing to me. And you know, Photoshop was part of the equation. I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm not the best 3D artist, but what I lack in that field, I can make up via Photoshop. So that was like, you know, the light bulb for me.
Hubble is a reflecting telescope. It uses a large mirror to collect the light and produce an image. Hubble's cameras don't produce color images by themselves like a regular consumer camera does. It takes black and white images. But then we use the image editing program to do the color compositing. We apply color through adjustment layers and composite the image into a full color image.
Anybody who says that Photoshop has distorted our view of reality has not really been looking at life since we first came down from the trees.
When somebody says that Photoshop distorts our reality, I don't look at it as a negative thing. I'm just like, wow, you know, well done.
If they present something that looks realistic and is not, I really feel like they owe it to the viewer to just let them know this is something else. Call them pixelgraphs rather than photographs. But the idea is to nudge people into thinking about the consequences of the breakdown of photographs as perceived as truth.
Photoshop's just a way to do what's been done for centuries through a different medium. It's digital instead of analog.
The tool itself doesn't have ethics built into it. It's really how people use them.
Every tool can be used for different purposes. As the mother of a daughter, I understand concerns, but I just have to make sure that my children understand that this is an artist's vision, this is not reality.
In the fashion world, absolutely, Photoshop just becomes this effect that is very negative to one's self-image. I've also seen uses of Photoshop that help in terms of child abduction cases and such, where the ability to use Photoshop has an amazing impact on society. The good outweighs the negative kind of impacts that Photoshop has.
We have not found a tool that's more beneficial for us as a forensic artist than Adobe Photoshop to help with these cases. Photoshop was not, invented for a forensic artist to do age progression of long-term missing children or fugitive updates or facial reconstructions. So we can't do what we do without Photoshop.
Photoshop, yes, is a verb, but it's also part of everyday life. It has touched practically every image on the planet.
The way I feel about Photoshop is that it's like a child. We protected and sheltered it, and we encouraged it along, and then it went off to college and it got its own career, and it's doing great. And I'm a proud parent. It's awesome.
It's very cool to be able to modify images and change things that before Photoshop, people couldn't do these kind of things, and now you could, and it seemed magical at the time.